there's one type of bait that you don't really hear much being talked about in the fishing circles, and that is paste baits. Now, paste baits years ago were all the rage. We used to make them up. You can concoct your own pretty well, and flavouring, colours, perfume, scents, the world's your oyster, textures, everything. They catch fish as well. I've got a couple I'm trying out. I guess you guys better come along and see if they work. Well boys, this is going to be a really quick one, a quick session. I've got all my jobs done again. I've come down here to Watmore Fishery and I'm going to be trying out some of this stuff, which is a paste bait I've made up with salmon fish paste in it, salmon spread if you like. And you're going to like this one. What about that one? It's the TAF special paste. It's a paste bait made up by Anthony, who is carp fisherman really, and I gave him some of my secret ingredient raptor oil. And for those who don't know, I make this raptor oil myself, and I make it out of two different species, one on fresh water. One fish survives in fresh water, one survives in sea, so I can use it sea fishing and or fresh water, and it works. And we've made a special paste in here of it, but it is, you've got to freeze after use, so it's one of those, it's not a life, shelf life do you call it? That's what it looks like. Plenty of oil in there. We're going to see what it looks like. So I'm going to fish one rod with this on, one rod with this out on it as well. And I've got to get some ground bait in quickly because I've got exactly 3 hours from now and a storm looks like it's on the way. First off, I'm going to throw some ground bait about, not far out, about 2 rod lengths out. And I'm going to be almost free lining or using a single BB shot, about size 10 hook, something like that, barbless. So which one is the better of these two paste baits? It's a challenge. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. You know me and margin fishing, I ought to just at least drop 1 or 2 balls down the inside here, just to see if anything does come in. Got a bit of sweet corn, I might drop some of that down the margins for you as well. But I want to get most of this out there. Now I can't tell you what's in the secret TAF paste, you can't buy it. I've only got two little tubs of it and I have not tried it myself yet. I'm going to be perfectly honest, the raptor oil based TAF paste I have not tried. Ducks like it anyway. Right, let's get rigged up. Well, I'm just getting set up boys, the weather gods are against me, the rain's coming, so I'm going to have to get a brolly up here and then put the head cam on. Right boys, identical rigs, identical rods, give or take, both Avon quiver tip rods, 1 hook, 1 tiny shot, 2 different baits. Salmon paste versus TAF special paste. Which one's going to get me a bite? And it's starting to tip with rain. Lovely. Trust me to bring my smallest umbrella. First paste, and this has been frozen. Oh, it's nice and gluey. I'll tell you what, if anything. Oh, nice and gluey, I like it. Big gob of it. I'll probably free line this. Don't imagine anybody else's ears using this method. Grass doesn't normally catch ground. On it goes. Wow, that's gluey. I think freezing has improved this. Okay. Check the drag. I was fishing down in Dorset yesterday, getting still water chub and ghost carp and roach. Right, now where did I chuck it? Here we go. There we go. I'm just going to put this one down. Now, oh, let's tighten up on that slowly, still sinking probably. This is I didn't bring a hand wipe and this is full of fish oil. Oh, sweet. I know the oil definitely works sea fishing and predators and putting it in other stuff here. You must have put some colouring in it, Anthony. Can you see that's like a red? Like a red colour. Let's see if we can get it roughly in the same spot. Check drag. Oh, that's a bit fierce. I must have been using that for carp. Down we go. I've got the rods very high. You can see there. I'm hoping this rain goes through, people. It's not pleasant, not entirely pleasant. I'm hoping actually this rain will go through. And of course I've got down there, I'll keep looking over there, time is first cast out, 25 past 3. Wow, can you see these mosquitoes, midges? Now if you were trout fishing, you'd be looking for that. They're trying to get under the back of the wind here, just on the downside of the wind, and they like this rain. The rain's brought them out. So if you're trout fishing, there's a good chance you could get a trout in that sort of conditions out in a big reservoir. Now, it doesn't hurt just to turn the handle once or twice, just to tension up, because I have only got a shot on there. So there's only literally the weight of the paste, then the shot, and then it comes up towards my rod top like this, so it's sort of hanging. The line's going from the rod top and it's sort of hanging down there. So the minute they pick it up, I either see the line where it enters the water, or I see a drop back bite, the tip comes back, or a straight pull down. And of course a lot of people don't actually use paste baits. I think the matchmen do. I think the matchmen are well clued up for experienced fishermen would be thinking outside the box. Old school, of course, some years ago it was old school. Better put the lucky hat on having a bite for about 3 minutes. Yeah, it's old school, paste baits, you know, people use it. And ironically, I think it was brought about probably by winter fishing. You know, there was no such thing as boilies. Boilies hadn't been invented. So you'd be using made up baits in the kitchen. You'd be experimenting with stuff. Oh, I just had my first little tap, which is probably a roach nibbling at it. And that was on the salmon paste. I feel sure, give them a half an hour or so to find that little bit of ground bait, and then I will see if I do get takes on them. If I don't, I'm going to shoot myself. So one of the advantages of paste baits years ago, they used to mix, say, cheese paste, make a cheese paste, soften it all up, and mix it with cotton wool to stop it freezing and going hard in the water, so it's always soft. Just a way we used to use standard cheese paste years ago. That's for winter fishing, because in the summer you can make it softer, but you're not going to cast it very far. Of course, you can put it on a ledger rig, you can put it behind a feed or whatever, but I just personally, like fishing it as light as possible. I just like seeing the bite when it comes. That's, you know, half the fun of it getting. And the other half of the fun is experimenting in the kitchen. You can use sweet flavours, you can use fish flavours, you can use spicy flavours, whatever you want. And of course, there's so much cooking going on in the TV now. They love all these cookery programs. I think they sort of pander to making things overcomplicated. I mean, look, I like boiled potatoes and carrots. That's it. You know, I don't live on it entirely, but I have a lot of that. I'm fine with it. But a lot of people have to put stuff with it and tart it up and bits and bobs and herbs and whatever. Does it make any difference? It doesn't to me. I just eat food, it just goes down my neck and keeps me alive till the next day. But for fish, you might want to get the edge on them and just have something totally different, you know, in that mix. It's the left-hand one that I've had the taps on at the moment. I might try a smaller piece, I might try a larger piece. I feel I should be throwing a bit of ground bait in and following up immediately as it tumbles down through the water. My paste bait goes down and settles on the ground bait. I'll show you a way in a minute I also do it. In fact, I'm going to do it now, guys. They've been out, what, barely 5 minutes, but I would have expected a tap from somebody or a line bite. So I've got my ground bait mix there, that's left over from yesterday's fishing. But it's gluey enough, I think it's going to hold together. I might be able to squeeze that around the shot. Oh, there's a bite on my paste here on the right. So that's one each. In the challenge, the paste bait challenge, there's a bite on each one. Hello, 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 hello. Oh my goodness me. Carp down there. Oh, one's a cracker, one is a cracker. I feel I ought to just wind in carefully. That's the reason I bait up in there, people. Now my paste is just about, oh, just come off. I'm going to say it's generally with a paste bait, when you wind in to recast, you will not get two casts out of it. Now they're probably eating those bits of sweet corn, but you never know. Now when I'm in close like this, I put the hook in it, hopefully you see this, and I squeeze it a bit flat. I try and just leave the hook point showing as a swell. And this one, I'm just going to lower it literally. Now they've gone now. I think they've eaten all that sweet corn. I'm just going to balance that one there. Okay, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this other paste bait. Something on there, snag or something. Oh no, this paste just come off. Maybe that was a little bit too gluey. So I'm going to bring this one in here. Come out, come out. That wind's died with that rain going through. Let's hope it has totally gone. I'm going to make quite a hard pellet. I can't believe I haven't bought a hand white rag. Well, I can, I've done it so many times. So there's the ground bait around the shot. Hopefully you can see this. And there's my piece of paste bait on the hook. The idea being that that pretty well breaks up on impact, sinks down. Oh man, there's a big carp down there. I spooked him. Just lob it gently. Here it goes, look, boom. Now that's sinking down. As it goes down, it crumbles up, and then the paste bait sits on top of the ball of ground bait. When I say it's a theory, it's not a theory, it does actually work. And I'm going to try just the piece of paste bait on its own. The TAF special, we're calling it. I'll chuck that down there, let's put a fresh piece on. I'd say this would be good for barbel and chub myself. That would be my take on it. It takes a while for fish to move in on bait, so I'm not really too worried at this stage. And of course, having the extra ball of ground bait on that, I can tighten up just for a little bit of tension on that. That's going out. Sinking, sinking, sinking. You can hold the rod till you're happy that it's gone down, because very often you can get a take on the drop. Yeah, if people haven't tried paste baits, get in the kitchen, go through Mum's baking flavours, colourings, all that sort of thing. Wow, that's certainly stilled off. I think, people, because I know I have trouble striking with this umbrella here, I think let's tighten up a tad. I think I'm going to take this down. Leave the spike in when you do this, because you never know. Don't pull the spike out, because there's plenty of rain around, and I put it that way so the water drains down, not on me. That's better. Now I'll probably ping off and then come back on if I do hook a fish up, people. Otherwise I'll have no battery and no memory card. Well, you can look over the back there and see that thundercloud's gone right the way through. Wind is what there is coming this direction. It's fairly clear over there. Might even have some west in it. I'm waiting for that water to get disturbed down there with a carp coming in. And you can see just here, it's stilled right off. And very often it's happened like this, you know, when you get thunderstorms come, and the weather front goes through a bit, it'll still off nicely. If they're not taken out there, I will lower down here and see if I can pick one off for you. But I think I'm going to need, due to this weird light, oh no, don't rain again, please don't rain again. Polarising glasses so I can just see through that glare, because it's, look, when I used to bonefish in Bermuda a lot, they used to call it off the end of the island, the west side, which were the flats we used to fish. For bonefish, you needed perfect light to be able to spot the bonefish. They're so spooky and obviously so powerful and fast. They had the cloud come across and it gets a reflective light. The light bounces off the cloud, and they used to call it Captain Morgan's shadow that used to come off the end of Bermuda. It just was a nightmare, because it always seemed to come over the best bonefish part, and the best part of the tide, best part of the day. It was really quite frustrating. Just as you spotted a fish and you're about to make your cast with your shrimp or your jig, it would get this cloud come over, the sun would reflect off the water, bounce off the cloud, and you lost all sight of the fish. So I'm geared up now. I'm waiting for one of these rods to quiver, as quiver tips do. Hat on. I can't actually see much more of a polarising glasses because it's so dark. I might put the other rod higher up here so I can lower down there. I think I'll do that now, people. No, he's seen me. Spooked him. Spooked him. Oh, there's a fish. He's right on it. That was quite funny. Now that's free line. Totally with no shot on there whatsoever. Just going to leave it balanced, just like this. I'll make sure he's laying down there. I could have a sandwich. I've had nothing to eat all day. Got one hooked up close inside here, boys. There's 3 really good fish there. I'm hoping I can keep him under my other line. Strange sort of take though. I think it's quite a nice fish. Further out I'm only just starting to get some bumps and bangs. So it's just fishing really close in on the paste is that's quite a nice fish actually. It looks quite a nice one. Wouldn't it be good just to get a couple of good fish in a 3-hour session on paste baits? Twanging around quite a bit. Don't like twanging, I always think something's going to happen, the hook's going to ping out. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at you. Yeah, no, it's a decent fish, not overly big. Bear with me, I'll just pop and get the net. People are going to have to weigh this one. A, the sun's come out. B, it might be over the magic 10. That one is £9, 12 ounces. Thought he was bigger. There is a bigger one down there. It's a common, so it's going to go nuts, isn't it? Well pleased with it. That was on that paste bait, so I gave him straight back. Lucky. I can't believe I didn't bring a towel with me. I normally wipe my hands in the grass and then find I've just gone through some duck poo. Right, so that's salmon paste that time. That was a salmon paste. If they come in there again, I'm going to see if I can pick one up on the TAF special paste. It's sort of not a fair challenge, is it? Because I was targeting the fish with that salmon paste. Ideally, I wanted to fish a pair of rods, but I'm not getting the bites I want out there, and I don't think I've got enough feed to get them really going nuts. So if I can catch one visually in here, and there's one big one that looks over 12, 14 pounds. If he comes in again, I'm going to have to go for it. And if worst comes to the worst, I have to come back and have a proper session with, you know, afternoon, 3/4 of a day, something like that. Just there, that tells me it's a roach, because that's the width of the mouth there. Nothing on the inside. This is on the outside. Just waiting for Godzilla to put in another appearance. Well, boys, I put a small hook on. I put a size 14 on. Check this roach out. And a piece of the TAF special paste. Really nice roach. So tiny pieces. Or maybe I've been using pieces that are too big. Little hook. Nice fish. Not quite a carp, but it still shows they like the paste bait. Got one on the TAF paste, boys. Well, I haven't got one, I've got a small hook on that roach after I had that roach. Fingers crossed we get it. It is a common. They're not going nuts, they're very, very picky for some reason. They seem very spooky. Let's get the net. I'm straight through, I don't have a hook link. So it's sort of 1-1 on the paste challenge at the moment. I feel I need more time. I think I might have to come back and have another session. It's always a good excuse, isn't it? It's always an excuse somewhere. Another excuse to go fishing. Nearly, one more roll, he's in. It's a common. And it's not as big as the last one. Let me calm down a minute. He's calmed down now. Good fish. Well, 1-1 on the paste baits. I think I'll give it another hour. Then I think I want to come back. It's a good excuse. That's it. No, you can come in with him, Andy. Bring him up here, Andy. You can try. Well, guys, Andy's got the fish for me because my camera battery went down. It's a real lump. It does look bigger, doesn't it? It does look big. Maybe it's not. It's maybe 26. Hang on a second, boys. I'll hold him up for you. I'll just click this on a second.
That's a beautiful fish, man.
Right, I'm away, Andy. If you want to grab a still as well, right? Let's let him calm down. So you might not have got any of the action there, people, but... So I got him down, I think, on 16.9. So that's a good one, yeah. Well pleased with that. Wait for it. I did see him in the swim. So let's get it straight back. Do you want to take one more with your phone, Andy? See if I know he's quiet in a second.
Nice fish, Graeme.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, I certainly lucked out with that 16-pounder. Bonus fish. Anyway, talking of different baits or old school baits, what about going fishing for flatfish? What would you think? Best baits? Lugworm, maybe Sandeel, Ragworm. Well, hang on, what about plain old belly strip baits? Just a plain fish strip. Here's some clips I put together for you. Just, well, listen, use it or lose it. You either use these tips or you don't. And don't forget, it takes one tip to turn that day around. And we got quite a few turnarounds on these couple of trips here. So you think when you're going flat fishing that you can't go flat fishing without lugworm, ragworm or squid. Wrong. You can always cobble something together, but of course you need to catch the most important bait fish of all first. That is the mackerel. Now you would think you can't catch flatfish on mackerel. You can if you use the belly strip, the white shiny belly strip. We'll show you how to rig that up in a minute. But first you're going to catch your mackerel, and for that you need regular mackerel feathers.
As you can see, I'll get one out for you. They're slightly tangled, as I say.
Yeah, they're way small, those hook sizes as well, aren't they, Wayne?
Tiny little things. So these are more for Sandeel. I mean, they will pick up mackerel and little joeys and what have you, and they are fairly strong, but the problem with these is, as you can more than likely see, there's usually half a dozen at least hooks on. Some have 8, some have 10. Well, I can assure you, if a mackerel, you know, even a single mackerel comes through, grabs these, often it will just make a huge mess of them. You'll be spending 20 minutes trying to untangle it. But if the Sandeel thick on the ground, these work lovely. I believe this may be fish skin. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think the original ones might have been. But they work very well. If you look on the bottom ones, what I did earlier, put a little bit of the plastic worm on. I think this is a Power Isomi or Isom. That's just a part of one. But often, just that on the end, acting as a little bit of an attractor, will bring a few more fish to the rigs. Okay, simplicity itself, taking the side of mackerel off, just cut in there, feel against the backbone, ease it along the backbone. There's your side of mackerel. That's the belly side there, that's the belly cavity. And basically I just go straight along the belly cavity, quite thin. I don't make them too long. We're targeting place right now. If it was turbot, I'd make them a bit longer, but place, a tiny bit shorter. That's ideal. And then hooked just the once through the end. And it really is simplicity itself. Can you imagine that fluttering in the water nicely? There's the rig. This is my place rig, very short, couple of beads, little spoon in the middle, and that'll pick them up around here all day long.
Okay, you saw Wayne's way of doing it. I'm going to do it just slightly different. I just take a cut across the belly. Same thing, you want that belly meat because it's quite tough. And I'm going to almost touch the bottom of the, if I just peel it over, you can see there's all the meat. Put that to one side, and there's the same thing, the belly cavity. But I've got it in my mind, as well as the flatties, there might be turbot. So just cut off here, but what I do is I put a little taper on this end, just like this. Any of you seen our light tackle pollock, you've seen the skin, but then I'll go down the middle here, and I'll try and put a little split in here, which we used to do on big shark baits years ago. Trim some of this meat off, just like that, get rid of the rubbish. Then what I do is I go in through that, what, ½ inch back there, I bring it up over. Now I've left a bit of a tag end on the end of the knot there when I tied it. I'm going to pop it up, and that helps to hold the bait there a little bit. And then I just roll the hook around. I allow for a bit of a bend in there, so it's the same bend of the hook. Go through once and it's laying flat. But the most important thing, he says looking for his thread, is this elasticated thread. Because with all fish really, it's not just flatfish, you want the fillet laying flat. Because we're fishing an area quite strong tide, and you don't want anything crooked. If it's not laying flat, it's going to spin. So I'm just binding the elasticated thread round and around like this. The hook points there sticking up. Now this, you just give it a good tug and it actually bites into the meat a couple of times. Give it a third go, it bites into the meat and you snap it right off, and then that will bump along the bottom perfectly like that. And similar sort of situation, long trace, a little bit of 30-pound fluorocarbon. I'm not a great lover of fluorocarbon, but I'm a lover of a bit of bling, a bit of beads there, just a little bit of colour, white bead, red bead, and I'll put 3 luminous ones, you know, that glow. So who knows, will the fish like it? We can only do one thing. We're on a little short session just to give it a go. Add water.
Yeah, it's a place, I think.
Oh, place, well done, Wayne.
There you go. Managed to find another line, but there we go.
Nice place.
Yeah, you'll be
A
alright.
nice place.
Well, there you go. There's a fairly nice place there. He took a strip of mackerel belly strip, and the bit I showed you early on. Very simple rig, short for this area. Beautifully hooked. Drifting about a knot, and he took that absolutely no problem. Nice fish. I think I'll let him go. Unless you want him for tea, Graeme?
Yeah. I will have it for tea.
I'm really sorry about that.
Yes.
I'm not going to let you go after all. But there you go.
Sorry, Mr. Fish, but we put the turbot back, but I do like it in place.
You're going to a good cause. There you go. Well, there you go. Nice place there. We've had turbot, we've had small-eyed rays and plaice, all on mackerel belly strips. So, whereas worm and squid does work particularly well, and that will be my favourite bait. Say you come out one day doing a certain type of fishing, and you think to yourself, do you know what? Tide's eased off, I can do a bit of placing, a bit of turbot and whatever. You can feather out a few mackerel, don't need to have the worms. You pick them up on strips of mackerel. Most of the flatties will take it, and some like the turbot actually prefer it. Well, we're just running up tide now, over these series of banks, small banks. And as soon as we get up tide far enough past them, we'll turn around and just drift, cut the engine, drift straight back over them. Small weights, just enough to hit the bottom so you stay in contact. 5 foot traces, sort of thing. We're using 20-25 pound fluoro at the moment, sort of 4-0 hooks. Strip of mackerel, and last time we picked up 6 turbot and a few various rays and bits and pieces, so hopefully we might find a couple of turbot this trip. Be nice too. Basically, we were drifting into the sun here, which is drifting southerly, and we're going over a series of banks. It's one of the bigger banks that's created a rip, and provided there's tide running, you often see these rips, so you know the bank's there, the tide's running that way, so it's run up the bank and it's created this movement on the surface. You can probably hear it on the camera. Got a little bit noisier, but you just know you can use these for a guide. I mean, if you're anchoring as well, often you want to anchor up tide of this rip, so you know your baits are dropping down the back of it. Yeah, because often the way that fish lay is if the tide's running, say, this direction, if you imagine the tide's running this direction and the bank comes up like that and then goes back down, there'll be a lee in that back side of the tide, and often fish are lying in the lee of that tide, so when anything comes tumbling over the top, slight eddy there, they're there waiting. And that's why often if you're anchored up, that's where you want to be, a few hundred yards up tide of that bank. Once the rope's paid out, often it pays you to go further up tide, because you can always let a bit more anchor rope out, and you can always let a little bit more line out for that matter, just to make sure your baits are on the right position on the back of the bank.
Well, we've got the weather with us today. We're out here on high seas drifting. We've come out to one of these many sandbanks that are popular off the coast of south coast of England, off of Bognor, and we're having a good old drift. Quite big tides, a lot of charter boats up there, a lot of charter boats. We've come out looking for these elusive turbot, first fish of the day, and I'm surprised myself. Just straight mackerel strip, and a nice. Oh, it's not a bad old place actually. Oh. All over me, a nice place, and I'll tell you what sort of bite he gave me. I didn't even know I had him on. We're just winding up for a move on another drift. That is a nice dinky place, and he's absolutely demolished that mackerel strip I put on that I showed you how to rig it on with a bit of elasticated thread. He's sucked it right back. I mean, they can be really greedy place, no question of that. He sucked that right back, no problem. I didn't even feel the bite. Didn't you see it? Didn't feel the bite. Well, what we've done now is the tide's gone dead on us just after that place, and we couldn't see those banks. They're not defined because you're not drifting over them fast enough. We anchored up, dropped the bait down, the same thing, just a place rig on the bottom, and a decent fish on here. I don't think it's a place. No, it's a nice ray. Looks like a, I don't know what type of ray it is. It's coming up. Ah, it's a small-eyed, I think. That is a nice small-eyed ray. So you can see that place rig just up, and I got that piece of a tractor just in here, which is a little piece of those stars that the kids put on their ceiling to light up at night, and I figured that might just do as an attractor. I've just tied a knot through it, drilled a hole, put it there, and it's just hooked in the lip there. Probably be able to lift that guy out. Yeah, here he comes. And do you know what? It was the same thing. I just picked the rod up to bump it, just to check that the bait was on the bottom. I'll get my pliers out, I'll get the hook out, and we'll get it back. So that was a bonus. So it just goes to show, there's the hook out. Just goes to show, you know, if you watch what you're doing over those banks, if you still anchor on the bank or on the edge of the bank, you're still in with a shout even though the tide's not running. It's just starting to pull now, and a lot of those other charter boats and private boats up there, they're going back on the drift, bumping those baits along the bottom, and we're still fishing with those fish grip baits. And look, good fishing or what?
And I may have one on here, I may have some weed on, I may have a crab on, I don't know. I really don't know. I would assume I had a fish on, because I definitely felt a few knocks early doors. Yeah, there you go. It's just had a little tiny struggle then.
A little bit of a tap then, wasn't it? Yeah.
Could be a manky dog, who knows what it is. Sincerely hope it's a turbot. And oh yeah, what's this?
A nice turbot.
Hey, turbot. Hey. And not a bad one. Oh, I'll get him in quick.
Oh!
I could have lost him, that was a bit silly on me.
That could have flipped off there, wasn't it? That's a nice one, yeah.
He's alright, he's a keeping fish, you know, over 4 pounds. Well, there you go. There's the first reasonable sized turbot. I mean, they're never going to be big on this bank, but this is a lovely thick fish. Make a nice dinner for a couple of people. Very expensive dinner if you was going to buy this in a restaurant, that's for sure. But handsome fish these are, really beautiful markings. And in case you worried about size of hooks, look at the trap on that. Penny's going to go down there. This is what he took. Just lay him down a second. We've got, what's that? Just a very, very simple swivel I've run along, couple of beads to protect it.
No reason for that lead, Wayne. You could use any lead.
No, not at all. It was about the right sort, weight of lead, that was all. No particular reason I've used that watch lead. People say they puff up sand, stuff like that.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
To me, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. Maybe about 4 or 5 foot of, that's actually £30 fluoro, I believe. It was Graham's line. Put a little stop knot there. A few bees just for something they can see.
Bit of bling.
Yeah, what's that? A little wire, Aberdeen 2.0 maybe, something like that. Strip of mackerel, that's exactly what that fish has just taken. So.
And the important thing is keep it flat, as you just need to nick it there once. You've got that hook through once.
Yeah, what you can see there, that's the original hook up where he's just taken. I'm going to use the same strip of mackerel. You want it just like that. You just want it flutter. Imagine underwater, fluttering away. That's the job. There you go. That's the proof down there.
We're just about to move up for another drift, and it's actually slow. Wayne noticed on the GPS it's slowed, so that lets you bump that weight along the bottom. It gives the turbot more chance to grab the bait, even the place apparently. And this rod is a luxury rod. Take a camera and show you there. I think it's Mike's rod, £5, telescopic, from the supermarket, including the reel. But I did put some decent line on it, and it's actually got a fish on it, or a big ball of weed, in which case I look really stupid. But I'll tell you what, I just throw this rod into the bottom of my old. No, it's a fish. I'm throwing a kick then. I'll throw this rod into the bottom of the tackle box there, because it all folds up to this big, like 15 inches long. And I've had some real fun on it this year, and I'm not saying it's good quality, £1 tells its own stories, but I caught fish on it, and I've enjoyed catching fish on it. So it just shows you don't need luxury tackle. The drag leaves a lot to be desired, and if I get this fish in, I'll be well impressed. I've no idea what it is. I'm hoping it's a turbo. Obviously, you've got limits with these telescopics, because that's the main point that's going to break is going to be here. But I should say this must be a piece of weed. It's definitely a fish. It's definitely a fish. Quite what it is, I don't know. Yeah, I've got kicks there now. Yeah. Honestly, I'm still getting line. I let a lot of line out on that drift because we're going fast. I wanted to make sure the lead was on the bottom.
Sure.
Oh.
Hang on, get in the net, get in the net.
Hang on. You don't often see Mr. P here get in the net. You do not often see Mr. P get in the net.
Looks like another
it's
T.
It's a turbot. It's Mr. T.
Yeah.
Please don't fall off, Mr. T. Oh, the hook's just there. Oh. Yes, get in, my son. Look at that. Oh, what a telescopic rod. I love it. And a face full of water as well. Just look at that fish. Do you know what? That was lucky. If I write a fishing article, it will be all pure skill. But honestly, between you and me and you YouTubers, I think I was lucky there. Telescopic rod, end of the drift. Man, that's a nice fish. Look at the mouth on it.
Yeah.
Absolute. Suck that back. I just saw a tiny bump on the rod that time. That's a beautiful fish. This is going to shock even me. You are going to see a turbot of 87 pounds 9 ounces. I can say that because I've used those special weight for length measurements that people use. No, it's a nice turbot, really pleased with that one. I'm going to put it back. What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't believe anybody in the sea fishing world has ever seen a turbot this big go back in the water. Wayne is stunned into silence.
That's all right, I've got more tea, Graeme.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, well that was worth putting it back, wasn't it? Well, a little while back I put up a film about what I consider to be the, and it's true, decline of our UK rivers. Obviously, I'm of the age where I knew what the rivers looked like 50 years ago. If you're only 30, you think what they're like now is what they should be like. Wrong. I know what they looked like years ago, and a lot of the older guys out there probably can confirm that. Indeed, I feel they did, because the comments on that film I put up were catastrophic. All over the country. Even I was surprised. I thought it was just down my neck of the woods in the south. No, big deterioration everywhere. Anyway, I did a follow-up film back in the winter. Doesn't feel much better today, actually. And I thought you might want to see it. Just sit back, and it gets you thinking. And also, for the new generation, it might make you think, actually, things aren't as great as we think they are. Too right, they're not. Ask the older fishermen. So following on from that talk about rivers, here is what we're talking about, the actual flow. Now I'm hoping with this camera pick it up. It was clearer the other day, but maybe if I get down low, you can actually see the pure clean gravel there, and that's all done by the flow. On either side of that is where you get the silt build up there. Now this is just a fold, but it's the same principle, and as that flow tapers off down the back there, you'll see it does actually go to silt. Now nothing's going to probably grow in here because this goes very, very low in the summer, but it just gives you an idea that the flow itself is washing that silt away. So it's the flow is one of the major problems. And there's another bit up here I want to show you. So it's the same up here. Look, down there you can see the speed of the flow going along there, all clean gravel. Come over this side now, that must show up on the camera. Absolute big band of gravel, and the main current goes off and tracks around there to the right, and the main river goes down under that ball under there, actually flows through there. Silt, silt, lack of flow, flow. I don't think I can sort of point it out any more than that. And then there's a main part of the rivers here, all just an illustration, people, to show you what how I think the system works. You can see fast flow just here, clear gravel, nice spot for a trout up there just above that stone. You can see there how clear that is. You see the pace of the flow makes a much wider area. So this is a sort of what I would call the main flow of the rivers there, and as it tapers off on the edges is where you get the silt dropout, I'm going to call it. So folks, hopefully that gives you some sort of illustration that it just shows you the flow is what we need, and the fact you also need management of bankside vegetation. And I can show you that as a sort of contrast with the slower moving water up here on the canal. So I was quite frankly quite amazed at all the comments that we had there on that particular film. I mean, it's amazing. It was like all over the country, and it's basically the fact that people don't sort of look at it. The problem is our generation, who knew what the fishing was like years ago, who knew what the flow was like, once they've gone, nobody's ever going to know. And photographers out there, if you've got photographs from 40, 50 years ago, that will be beneficial in illustrating the degradation of the rivers. Anyway, I'll show you here something totally different, but it's a canal which I fished as a kid, which is 60 years ago, 55 to 60 years ago. Hard to believe he used to come up here. I'll just show you a bit of history. I've done this one before, but I'll show it to you anyway. Just here is what we call King John's Castle. It's probably got a different name now, you know, it's a socially acceptable name or something it must have. But it's King John's Castle, that's what it is. There. There's a desirable residence. And as the estate agents would say in their language, it just needs some TLC, tender loving care, and STP. It could be improved subject to planning. If I come back there, you'll be able to get an idea, sense of perspective. There's like a lot of flint in there. There's like a cannonball went through there. Is it locked off from COVID? No, it's not actually taped off. Wanted loose bits coming down there. They obviously do get that. That's what this canopy's there for, as you can see. So this was one of the very, very ancient places in my neck of the woods here in Hampshire. It's quite impressive. Is that the chimney? It would have been a chimney up there, I'm guessing. And I guess those square holes would be beams going across, cross beams for different floors. History is here, look. They spent the Christmas of 1302 here. It says there he's succeeded by Edward II in 1307. His weak rule saw Odium Castle damaged by Robert Le Ewer. Yeah. Sounds like somebody's had too many beans or a curry. Ewer, what a name. This one is actually mentioned in the Magna Carta. The French lay siege to Odium Castle, bombarding it with oversized onions. That was a big onion, guys. Right, let's get down and show you the bit of the canal. So this is the local canal, which I used to fish as a kid. Further down at a place called Deepwater, which is really good. You can see tench, perch. You catch them down there, guys, honestly. Really good. And then it went downhill. I noticed over there, this is brand new, so I walk here quite regularly. There's a river that runs underneath that stream I showed you, which is like a chalk stream. It looks like they've got to salvage that because the bank's about to collapse. Now, whether that means the canal runs into the river or the river floods and comes into the canal, I don't know. It's there for a reason. Now this here, I've got a picture somewhere. This tree here was not there. You could stand on this piece here, and it's no word of a lie. This, from there to there, right, was all straight gravel with streamer weed. Now it's got that sort of spear blade type weed in it, totally different, harder, it needs digging out. But looking back there, the bank is, I don't know if I move this way, I don't want to go in that puddle. The bank's over there by that green strip on the right. That's the width of the bank. Now look how that has reduced in size from over there to over there. That's total overgrowth, pushing down narrower and narrower the actual width of the stream. More growth, more silt hold up, more this black stuff, the silt, more weed, more problems, less fish. Simple as that. And if I told you this stretch here was gravel and the trout laying over there, I'm going to tell you honestly, 5 years ago, I'm 60 now, I'll be 70 this year, as little as 5 years ago, there were fish there. Now, all changed. You used to be able to see a trout underneath there, underneath the pipe in there. So you would think a canal has very little flow. Obviously there is a flow on this. You wouldn't get problems. But there's been a problem this last year that I can tell you, and that's happened in months, is the lack of canal boat traffic, because although it stirs it up, okay, it stirs it up, let me turn this around, it also has a turning circle here. So the boats come up the canal with tourist trips or private boats, turn around here, did a film bream fishing here, couldn't bream fishing out, it's choked with weed. Now, two things here. I can actually see through the bottom there, see the clear parts. Two things here. The boats aren't clearing the weed with the propellers, chopping it all up, okay? So that means actually the silt, the particles in suspension drop out more. They drop down, they go to the bottom, same as a sort of river. The weeds start coming up, but then it goes clear, right? Because they're not boat movement to stir it up. So that clarity gives you sunlight, it makes a weed grow, and now it's absolutely choked with weed. And this year, again, it's my neck of the woods. I've never seen that much weed, and I'm filming this in January, early January. I've never seen that much weed. This has normally got quite a few bream in it. I see nothing at the moment, but the weed is going to be a problem because this is going to have to be, I guess, cut out. So there goes the problem. If you want clear water, you have got the problem of the weed growing. But of course, what I'm saying is the weed needs to grow into silt to get its roots in there. There was never this amount of weed in this canal. I'll extend it out as far as I can there, just walk along slowly. You should be able to see just how much weed there is there. And that, I believe, is because the lack of boat traffic lets it go clear and lets the weed is going crazy. If it's growing like this in early January, can you imagine what it's going to be like given the summer sunlight and warmer temperatures? I mean, that basically, you'd be buying a day ticket, you can't fish that, end of. Totally unfishable. So I'll just show you down here the little section we used to fish as kids, and again, it's the ingress or growth of bankside vegetation. So I'll give you an idea just here. And bear in mind, I've seen this as a kid, so I do not speak with forked tongue. Here is the edge of the canal. Look, right there. There's the water through there. That must be 4, 5 feet, at least 5 feet, perhaps 6 to the edge, where the rushes have grown, fallen over, seeded, grown, fallen over, grown, fallen over. Narrow, 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 all the way. Here, if I look that way, almost, that's a quarter. It might not quite be a third that's encroached in there that needs digging out. Now, I'll tell you why I know it needs digging out, and that's because this was a working canal. The boats would be coming along here, and a horse would have a rope from that boat to his back, and he would be like this, pulling that boat along, wouldn't he? Okay, so imagine that, he's pulling this huge great big barge loaded with goodies, iPhones and stuff like that, whatever they had in King John's time, bean can with 2 pieces of string between us kids we used. He's pulling that rope along. Well, it's not happening, is it, folks? Because all this junk's in here, all this overgrowth. So you can see, people would say, oh, well, that's there for the lesser spotted damsel, yellow-winged, two-eyed butterfly thing. You've got all that brigade. Well, they might be in there, but they weren't there naturally years ago. They weren't there because there wasn't all this rubbish in there. And if you can imagine a barge coming down here, the rope's not going to go. The horse, well, the rope would eventually, I suppose, cut it all off. So that tells you that a canal towpath shouldn't be looking like this. This is the towpath side for the horse to pull along. That is obviously the overgrowth side, which you would expect to be overgrowth, and the things you would move or should remove would be trees that fall in the canal. So it's not just, you know, moving fast flowing rivers that are going downhill. It's also, I feel, some of the canals as well. Now look, there's the bank. There's the bank, right? There's stakes, so those are 4 feet out. So I can tell you now, they've had to try and repair that over the years. But you can see that's clean. As soon as they stop the manual work, oh dear, all this is growing there. Oh, you can't fish, can you? You have to make a hole to fish. But trust me, there doesn't seem to be any fish in there. I thought that might be of interest to you people. Some of the canals as well. This is the towpath side. It should be clear. Traditionally, go and look it up on canals and waterways and find out how the towed barges down, and I think you'll find that this was clear, and there'll be pictures of horses towing barges along, and there won't be all this rubbish in the water. So in my opinion, this all needs reclaiming and dredging out again. So that gives you a better idea of the clarity of the water there. You should be able to see the two different types of weed growing there. But it's just extremely lush. Now who knows what that third duck over the back is? Very, very white. I'll try and keep it dead still so you can see. I've got a mallard in the front here, and in between the two male mallards, the second one travelling along. That's a weird looking one. What is that? So this bit here, this is a raised bridge so the boats can go underneath. We used to fish down here along the sides and catch perch years ago. I'm looking there now, there is not a fish in sight. You can look across the bottom. What is there? Oh, actually, yeah, it looks like a golf ball. It must have been a hell of a drive because there's no golf courses here. There'd be loads of swan mussels in here. We used to take them out, use them, cut them up and chum them, smash them all up and drop them in the bottom for tench bait. You know, it's a sort of pre-baited swim. I wouldn't think you'll get them there now. There you can see what I talk about, the straight edge of the towpath, because that's for tying up boats. It's got to be straight, it's got to be straight, and then it gets overgrown up there. So I'm out on a walk again, guys, talking about rivers, and this is a small trouty type river, and they're generally maintained, but even here you can see the build up of silt there. This is clear water, probably as fresh as you could get, so it will get some sort of farming runoff, i.e. nitrates or whatever, I guess, eventually getting in the system. But up here something interesting is an old eel house. I think the last commercial eel catches they did here was back in about the 1980s, after which they say it declined dramatically. Now I'm mentioning that because having eels in a river is usually a sign it's in very good condition for pollution, etc. Now down here, when you talk of management, this bank, I'm just going to show you can see this, this bank's totally overgrown. So you'd say, well, it's exactly the same you've been talking about. No, it's trout managed. So there's more money in trout fishing and land ownership. So the other side is manicured for, I guess, anglers want to fly fish there. So it depends how much money you want to spend in there. Boy, is it windy today, freezing and windy. I'll just show you this old eel house. So basically they would migrate, into the river systems, and as they move through, they would be trapped for food, probably sent to market. I guess they might have ended up, who knows, Billingsgate, London, somewhere like that. There's a picture of the old eel house there. You can just see that. It was part of the Albury estate with 3 channels, each containing iron grill traps, which would be set on a dark, moonless autumn night when mature eels start their lifetime. What it says here on the information is that in 2006, during the work to remove the ivy, which was they cleared around here, it was discovered the southwest corner being completely undermined by the roots of an adjacent ash tree, and the background current from the river had scoured away the foundations to a depth of 5 feet, I guess below here. Maybe that was the ash tree around the back. It's a 180-year-old system, so it's now been fully restored in a sort of working system, but not commercially, for educational purposes. And this is the eel house I'm going to cross here. So what I want to know is what caused the decline in the eels, the eel population, to make it commercially unviable. Because this river to me is in really good condition. And yet, if an eel is a sign of a good condition river, why aren't the eels here? What I have just seen, I'll try and get it for you, I haven't even got polarising glasses, is a, well, pretty lumpy brown trout. See if I can zoom in on it. Can you see that fish there? I've got that down as a brown trout. Just check out where they feed the ducks here. The massive size of the grayling, might just be able to see drifting through there. Really, really impressed with the grayling, and of course some brown trout as well, eating the bread thrown in for the duck. So down here you can see there's going to be, coming into camera shot there, a big piece of, say, metal, concrete, whatever, that's guiding water off of the main river flow underneath the footpath, and that runs through to another side. That's managed, what I call managed water. And this is what I think some of our bigger rivers need, you know, really good water management services. And you can see here how the old mill house goes round. And there is a channel of water again, that goes down and is adjusted up and down the flow to yet another carrier or side stream. They call most of these carriers, and it's what's missing on some of the river systems today, that management. So walking away for the main river and the side carriers, but look how they make from this branch coming up here. They split, chop it, don't go right through, fold it right over and fold it along here, and the shoots come up to make a big hedge space there. They can do that all the way along, so you can see it comes up from down here. Been cut there previously anyway. Split it, fold it, hedge making, old school works, and all those shoots will fill that up and green it, and as this one gets bigger and bigger, that we cut and folded as previously done here. That there, it's cut, half cut, drop down, just leave enough I suppose for the sap or whatever to come up here, go down there, and hopefully it shoots. It's all old school stuff. It's interesting how it works in the countryside. This whole hedge along here is totally done that way. You can see them horizontal, and the shoots then grow vertically. I've got to catch your wife up. She's going to be so much grief after I've seen those huge grayling. Some of those are £4. I can't believe it. Unbelievable. Well, I think that's pretty interesting. We covered quite a few topics. You know, freshwater, sea, bit of boat fishing, bit of paste bait making, and of course, please feel free to bung in the comments all you guys that go on canals you think might have gone downhill, rivers you think might have gone downhill. I'm not having a major rant about it, I'm just trying to put it out there. I know the decline, you don't need to con me, I know the decline's there, and I know a lot of you older guys do too. I feel it's only fair it should be pointed out to the next generation that things perhaps aren't quite right. Hit the subscribe button, both channels, TA Fishing, TA Outdoors. I'll try and get you some more films. If this one was late, I'm sorry, I've been working flat out. There's only so much I could do. I am, after all, just an old fogey, a one-man show. See you next time.